All right, everyone, get ready. Because today we are taking a deep dive into Dungeons & Dragons, Trials of Tempus.
Interesting.
This new board game is creating quite a buzz, and it's for good reason. We're not just talking about rolling some dice here.
No, not at all.
It's about proving yourself in the battle realms.
Oh, absolutely.
The battle realms of Tempest.
Yes.
The god of war.
And Tempest, let me tell you, he doesn't mess around.
No, he does not.
His symbol, a flaming sword, it's like totally woven into the game's story, right?
Yeah.
So picture this.
Okay.
A giant flaming sword just appears out of thin air on the summer solstice.
Oh, wow.
And whisks people away to be part of his trials.
It's amazing. And it's been popping up in different cities across the Sword Coast.
Oh, yeah.
Luskan, Neverwinter, and now it's blazing right outside Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
We even have accounts from adventurers like Bonnie, Bard Extraordinaire, College of Lore.
Oh, yeah. She's documenting her whole journey to participate.
The excitement is just palpable.
It is. Speaking of excitement, the game itself, from what I hear, it just sounds super dynamic.
Yeah.
The goal is pretty straightforward.
Okay.
You got to earn more victory points, more VP than your rivals.
Okay.
But there are multiple ways to actually win, each with its own, like, rewards and challenges, you know?
Okay, let's break down these paths to victory. How do you actually rack up those all-important victory points?
So, 3 main ways.
Okay.
Completing quests, gathering loot, and then capitalizing on certain events.
Oh, okay.
Each one gives you, like, unique chances for strategic play.
Okay, quests.
Yeah.
Tell me more. What kind of adventures are we talking about?
You'll face a real mix of challenges.
Okay.
Some are very straightforward,
Okay.
like Monster Slayer, where you just, slay monsters, you know?
Yeah, okay.
Or gather rare herbs, where you're basically scouring the battle realm looking for specific herbs.
Okay.
And then there's more complex quests, like the Dark Obelisk.
Ooh, the Dark Obelisk. That sounds cool. What does that one involve?
So first you have to actually, interact with the obelisk itself.
Okay.
Then you got to hunt down these corresponding runes hidden throughout the battle realm.
Oh, wow.
And then finally you face a Bulazau.
What's a Bulazau?
It's this really powerful demon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
So quests are definitely one way to earn those precious victory points.
Yeah.
But what about the loot?
Yes.
How does treasure factor into all of this?
See, loot in Trials of Tempest, it's not just about those shiny trinkets, no.
Oh.
It's about gaining an advantage.
Okay, yeah.
Loot cards represent magical items that give you, like, immediate enhancements or even abilities.
Cool.
So, like, imagine you're wielding this magical sword that boosts your attack power.
Okay, yeah.
Or a potion that makes you temporarily invulnerable.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right.
So where can you find these powerful loot cards?
So there's a few ways you can gain loot. You can open chests, you can defeat monster camps, you can even, like, take it from a rival hero.
Steal it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And you can also get lucky and find some loot through random events.
Okay, so you've got to be pretty strategic with how you go about getting your hands on that loot. All right, so we've got quests, we've got loot, but there's one more element you mentioned. The Trial Guardian. What's the deal with this ultimate foe?
Yeah, so the Trial Guardian is kind of like the final boss of the game.
Right.
It's this really powerful elite monster.
Oh, wow.
That spawns right in the center of the battle realm, but only when a party ends around with 10 or more VP.
So it's like a ticking time bomb. The closer you get to victory, the closer you are to facing this ultimate challenge.
Exactly. And defeating the Trial Guardian, that's actually how the game ends.
Yes.
Whoever has the most VP at that point wins. But the last hit on the Guardian, that's the tiebreaker if you're tied.
Wow, the tension must be incredible. So tell me, what makes this game stand out? It seems like a lot is going on.
Well, what's really fascinating is the depth and replayability.
Okay.
You can build a totally unique hero deck by choosing from, like, different classes, subclasses, and characters, each one with its own abilities and playstyles.
Okay, yeah.
Then you've got the modular battle realms, the random events, the different quest combinations. It really makes sure that every time you play, it's different.
So it's not just about learning the rules, it's about discovering new strategies and combinations each time you play. Okay, I'm already intrigued. But let's dive into the specifics. What kind of hero classes can you choose from? What makes each class special?
Oh, yeah, the heroes.
Yeah.
Each one brings something totally unique to the table.
Okay.
You've got your classic spellcasters, like the wizard masters of arcane magic.
Yeah.
And then the cleric.
Right.
Conduit of divine power.
Yeah, those are D&D staples for sure.
Yeah.
What about those more martial classes? What about the ones that get their hands dirty?
Oh, so for the ones who prefer a more, how should I say, hands-on approach,
Yeah.
you've got the fighter, just a skilled warrior, good with any kind of weapon, great combat tactics.
Yeah.
And then you've got the monk who's super agile, master of martial arts.
Okay, cool. And what about someone who prefers like a little bit of both?
Oh, then you have the paladin, the
Yeah.
holy warrior, sword in one hand,
Yeah.
faith in the other, vanquishing evil.
Okay.
And then there's the ranger who's like a skilled hunter, tracker, great at navigating the wilds and striking from afar.
And of course, we can't forget the bard.
Yes.
Master of words and music, inspiring allies,
Oh, yeah.
confounding enemies.
The bard can do it all.
So we've got 7 distinct classes,
At least.
each with their own unique playstyle.
It's fantastic. What's not to love?
Yeah, what's not to love?
And we've only just, scratched the surface.
Right.
Each of those classes, right, they have subclasses.
Oh, okay.
That kind of refine their abilities even more, make their strategies more specialized.
So there's even more specialization than just the class itself.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we've got our basic class choices, but what about individual characters? You mentioned something about them earlier.
Yeah.
How do they come into play?
So choosing a character, that's like the last step in making your hero.
Okay.
They add personality, give them some flavor.
Okay.
Each character has their own special primary movement ability
Okay.
and at least one feature card that goes right into your draw deck.
So it's like choosing a specific persona for your hero.
Exactly.
Complete with like their backstory and their defining traits.
It really brings them to life.
Okay. And these character choices can really impact your gameplay.
Significantly.
Okay, so give me an example.
Okay, so let's say you choose Bonnie.
Okay.
She's a bard.
Okay.
And her inspiring tune ability, it gives you an advantage on skill rolls.
Oh, wow.
Or Gaines, the fighter, his second wind ability.
Yeah.
Lets him heal himself right in the middle of a battle.
That's great. So each hero has like their own unique story to tell.
They really do.
But with so many options, I'm already feeling a little overwhelmed.
Oh, don't worry. The rulebook's got you covered. It's got tons of guidance.
Okay.
But honestly, the best way to learn is just to jump in and play around with it, see what works for you.
I think you're right. Just dive in.
Yeah.
So we've got the classes, subclasses, and characters. All these choices
Right.
really make for a customizable experience.
Absolutely.
But let's get into the nuts and bolts of how this game actually plays,
Right.
What happens in a typical round?
Okay, so a round in Trials of Tempus is a very carefully structured series of phases, and these dictate how the game flows.
Okay.
Every round starts with the draw phase.
Okay.
This is where everyone draws 2 cards from their hero deck.
Okay, so you start by drawing cards. Makes
Yeah.
sense. But how many cards do you start with?
You start with 4 in the first round
Oh.
to give you, a head start.
Okay, yeah, you need some options right out the gate.
Yeah.
So what happens after the draw phase?
Then comes the event phase. This is where things can get interesting.
Okay.
You draw an event card from a special deck.
Okay.
And these cards, they add a level of unpredictability.
Okay.
They can have all kinds of effects on the game.
Okay, so things can get a little crazy with those event cards.
Oh, for sure.
What happens after the event phase?
Okay, so then we move into the initiative phase.
Okay.
This is where things get really exciting.
Right.
You roll a 20-sided die, right, to figure out the turn order for that round.
Oof.
Highest roller goes first.
So the higher the roll, the sooner you get to act. This is where strategy comes in, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you want to move fast and grab that awesome loot?
Yeah.
Or complete a quest objective?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want to hang back and wait for the perfect moment to strike? It's all about reading the situation, making the best possible decision.
So it sounds like every decision matters.
It really does.
But what about those monsters we're battling?
Yes.
Do they just sit around and wait for their turn?
Not at all. Monsters have their own turn order, and they always act on initiative 10.
Oh, wow. So they often go right before or after a hero's turn.
Yeah, it can make things really tricky,
Okay, that could make things pretty interesting.
but that's all part of what makes Trials of Tempus so engaging.
This is all fantastic. We've covered a lot of ground already, but I think we'll need to continue this deep dive in our next installment.
Oh, definitely. There's so much more to explore.
Stay tuned, because next time we'll be exploring the turn phase, where you'll discover how to move across the board, attack your enemies, and complete those exciting quests.
It's going to be a wild ride.
It is. Welcome back. Last time we were just getting ready to jump into the turn phase of Trials of Tempest. So what kind of actions can heroes take during their turn?
Well, the turn phase. This is really where your hero comes to life. It's your time to shine in the battle realm. Each hero gets 2 actions on their turn.
Okay.
And they can use these actions for a whole bunch of things. Moving across the board, attacking enemies, interacting with those quest objectives, playing some really powerful spell cards, even using those special abilities they get from their loot.
So there are a ton of options to think about. It sounds like it's way more than just rolling dice and moving your character around.
Oh, it definitely is. Trials of Tempest really rewards strategic thinking and planning. You have to think carefully about your options, consider your hero's strengths, what's happening on the board, and what your opponents are doing.
Okay, let's break down those actions a bit more, starting with movement. How far can a hero move on their turn, and are there any restrictions?
So movement is determined by your hero's move action card,
Okay.
which usually lets you move a certain number of spaces.
Right.
But the battle realm, it's full of obstacles.
Oh, okay.
You've got impassable terrain like walls or water. Those can block your path. And of course, enemy creatures can too.
So you can't just walk through a monster's area without any consequences.
Not a chance. Plus, there are these special cards called chains that actually change your actions, including movement. Well, you might have a chain card that lets you move an extra space, or even teleport a short distance.
Ooh, teleportation. Now that's cool. That could really shake things up. Okay, so we've talked about movement. What about combat? How do attacks work in Trials of Tempest?
Ah, combat. That's where things get really interesting. Attacks are also controlled by specific action cards.
Okay.
And the type of attack really depends on your hero's class and their abilities. You could have a basic melee attack with a sword or an axe, a ranged attack with, a bow and arrow, or a really powerful spell that unleashes this torrent of fire or ice.
Okay, cool. And how do you actually carry out those attacks? Do you just roll the dice and hope for the best?
It's a little more complicated than that. You do roll a 20-sided die, but the outcome depends on a few things. Your roll, your attack card's stats, and any modifiers that might be in play.
Like what kind of modifiers?
Well, you might have a bonus to your attack roll from a piece of loot. Or you might have a penalty because you're attacking from a bad position.
So it's not just about being strong, it's about using strategy and positioning. You've got to be smart about it.
Exactly. And just like with movement, there are attack chain cards that can totally change how combat goes. These chains can do things like let you attack twice, add extra damage to your attack, or even hit your opponent with a nasty status effect.
Status effects, those sound pretty rough. Tell me more about those.
Think of them like these bad surprises you can throw at your enemies.
Okay.
Maybe you have a spell that stuns your opponent so they can't do anything for a turn.
Right.
Or one that poisons them, making them take damage over time. There's even a spell that can root them right to the spot.
Okay, those sound pretty brutal. But heroes must have ways to protect themselves from those effects, right?
Oh, of course. They can use defensive chain cards.
Okay.
And they have a stat called damage reduction, which helps reduce the damage they take from attacks.
Right.
And don't forget about those healing potions and spells.
Right, of course. So combat sounds super dynamic with this constant back and forth between attacking and defending. But let's not forget about the other 2 ways to get those victory points. Quests and loot. How do those work, and what kind of challenges and rewards do they offer?
All right, so quests and Trials of Tempest, they're these multi-tiered objectives that require players to really explore the battle realm, interact with different things, and overcome tough obstacles. They could involve slaying a bunch of monsters, figuring out ancient runes, finding a lost artifact, all sorts of things.
Wow, so many possibilities. And what about the loot? What kind of treasures can heroes find on their adventures?
So loot. It comes in the form of cards that represent magical items. Each item has its own unique ability that can make your hero stronger in all sorts of ways. You might find a sword that gives you extra attack power, a shield that increases your damage reduction, a ring that lets you cast a specific spell, even a potion that heals your wounds.
It's like a constant treasure hunt, always looking for the most powerful and useful items. So how do you actually get loot in the game?
There are a few ways to get your hands on loot. You might find it in chests scattered around the battle realm, earn it as a reward for completing quests, or even steal it from your opponents.
Steal it. Now that's what I call adding some excitement to the game. Okay, so we've talked about quests and loot, which are both super important for getting victory points, but we haven't talked about the final challenge. The Trial Guardian. What makes this final boss so special, and what strategies do you need to beat it?
The Trial Guardian is the ultimate test for your party. It's a really strong elite monster that usually appears in the center of the battle realm once a party hits 10 VP. And each Trial Guardian has its own special set of abilities, so you'll need a different strategy to beat each one.
It's like a ticking time bomb. The closer you are to winning, the closer you are to facing this final challenge.
Exactly. And beating the Trial Guardian is no easy feat. You need to really focus on staying alive, using all your healing abilities, defensive spells, and tactical moves to minimize the damage you take. Positioning is super important, and you need to use the terrain to your advantage, flanking the Guardian when you can, and avoiding its strongest attacks.
So it sounds like working together as a team is super important in this final battle.
Oh, absolutely. The trials are all about teamwork and cooperation, and that final battle against the Guardian really shows that.
This all sounds so exciting. I'm ready to face that Trial Guardian and claim victory. But for now, we'll have to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll explore the final moments of the game, what happens when the Trial Guardian falls, and how victory is decided. Stay tuned. Okay, we're back, ready to finish up our deep dive into Dungeons & Dragons, Trials of Tempest. We've covered the heroes, the quests, the battles.
We have.
But now, it's time for the big one. The Trial Guardian.
The final challenge.
You mentioned earlier that each Guardian has its own special abilities, right?
They do, yeah.
Can you give us some examples of these terrifying foes we might run into?
Oh, absolutely. Imagine coming face to face with an iron golem.
Okay.
Just this unyielding construct of metal and magic.
Right.
Or a hill giant, this towering brute with incredible strength.
Oh, man.
You might even encounter a guardian naga.
A Naga?
Yeah, a creature of ancient power, serpentine, very cunning.
Wow.
Or maybe an elder oblex.
What's that?
Oh, it's a shape-shifting monstrosity. Can absorb memories and abilities.
That sounds scary. Each one seems like it would need a totally different strategy.
You're absolutely right. Each guardian has unique strengths and weaknesses, special attacks, all that.
Yeah.
So your party has to adapt their strategy to win.
So it's not just about attacking wildly. You have to actually think tactically and, adapt to the situation.
Exactly. The Trial Guardian, it's like the climax of your trials. It's the ultimate test,
Yeah.
Your party's skill, teamwork, strategic thinking, it all comes down to this.
You've painted a very vivid picture of these final showdowns.
I try.
But what happens once a party actually manages to defeat the Trial Guardian? How do you figure out who wins?
As soon as that last blow is struck, the Guardian falls, the game's over.
Okay.
The party with the most victory points at that moment, they win.
Okay.
But if it's a tie, the last hit on the Guardian breaks the tie.
So it really could come down to the wire.
Huh.
It must feel amazing to finally take down that powerful foe and be the champions of the battle realms.
Oh, it's incredible. To overcome something so challenging, especially with your friends at your side, there's really nothing like it. There's such a sense of accomplishment, camaraderie. It's great.
You've made Dungeons & Dragons, Trials of Tempest sound so immersive and exciting.
I hope so.
I'm ready to grab my friends, create my own hero, and dive into this world.
You should. The trials are waiting.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Well, that brings our deep dive into Dungeons & Dragons, Trials of Tempest to a close. I hope you've enjoyed the journey as much as I have.
Me too.
We explored the lore, the mechanics, the heroes, the quests, the battles, and that thrill of victory.
It's been a blast sharing my thoughts with you. I really encourage everyone listening to embrace the challenge, try out different strategies, and most importantly, have fun.
Well said. Until next time, everyone, may your dice rolls be in your favor, and may your trials be full of glory.